So just to introduce me, I'm Pedro. I'm an assistant professor back in Brazil at FURG, the Federal University of Rio Grande. I will be talking about IXPs. That's something that I've been working for maybe 8-9 years since my PhD with Marinho. And we are, as Henrich said, we are working in this platform for the last 2 years, more or less. So the idea is that today I'm going to present the platform and also should be like release of the beta version of the platform. So at the end, there will be a QR code that you can scan and use the platform and provide feedback to us. This is a joint work with Henrich, Inácio, as some of my students in Brazil. The name of the platform is called IXPert, a platform to analyze the network benefits of connecting to IXPs. And I started this saying that traffic delivery is important for internet operations. We need to handle with increasing traffic volumes, with the application service requirements regarding latency, bandwidth, packet loss, and jitter, and also with the need to keep the network working, we need resilience. And IXPs will be an essential part of this process because they allow networks to get together and interconnect easily. Today, we have more than 1,000 IXPs across the globe. And one question that operators usually do is, okay, where should I interconnect? Because there are many IXPs and each one is offering different opportunities for improving traffic delivery and internet resilience. So that was our main question at the beginning of the project. And as I said, operators need to identify the benefits and where they should interconnect. But doing that is non-trivial because we have multiple data sets that are being made available for us in different time granularities, in different file formats. We need to learn about different APIs to collect the data and to process the data. And even though we can put this all together, it's non-trivial to get insightful information about all of this data. So that's when it comes the IXPert, a platform to analyze IXP data and understand its network benefits. We have been building IXPert combining multiple data sources. So for routing data, we use data from RIPERIS, route views, and PCH. Whenever possible, we rely on the looking glasses from the IXPs because it tends to offer a more complete view of the IXPs. And also for geolocating IPs and ASs, whenever we need, we are relying on data that has been kindly provided to us by IPinfo, as the other research workers are doing. Yeah. Okay. And the idea of the platform is to offer insights for the community and for network operators considering different perspectives. For example, we can understand what's happening with IXPs in the perspective of regional internet registries, for example, at the LACNIC region, at the RIPE region, or APNIC, AFRINIC, and ARIN. Also, we can understand the behavior of IXPs in a given country. Are they growing? Are they shrinking? Are more prefixes being announced at that region or country? We can also get views about specific IXPs, or more importantly, for understanding peering choices, the behavior of how ASs are connecting to IXPs or how are they announcing their prefixes at IXPs. So the idea, I could go over the platform, presenting the features of the platform, but instead of doing that, the way that I'm going to do this right now is going through examples. So I have selected 3 different examples that we could use IXPert to benefit from, and I will iterate over those examples, but there are many other cases. And the idea is that this afternoon, we are going to do a demo of the IXPert in the breaking session. So please reach me. So we are going to do the demo at the break as well. Okay, first use case of the platform, an AS needs to find better connectivity to a given AS, or could also be to a given prefix because he needs to improve traffic exchange with that AS or with that prefix. One thing that the operator can do is go to the platform, query for the AS. So here I'm querying for AS 1916, which is the Brazilian National Research Education Network. We are going first to see in how many IXPs that AS is connected. So it's a direct member of the IXP. as well as in how many IXPs it's reachable. So it's not directly connected, but someone is announcing that AS at that IXP. We also have a map showing exactly the location, so we can understand the footprint of the AS over the IXPs that we are analyzing. And we also classify on the map, considering that if it's connected to the IXP, so direct member, if it's reachable at the IXP, so another AS is announcing that AS at the IXP, or if it could be both, like it's a member, but there are also another AS announcing its prefix on the IXP. We have detailed information about this as well, in which we can get the list of IXPs in where that AS is connected, the number of prefixes and the address space that is being announced by that AS. So one thing that's interesting to see here is that the AS behaves differently in different IXPs. So it doesn't mean that, oh, if a given AS is in a particular IXP, I should go there and I will get everything, because it behaves differently. We also have the information about the ASs and the prefixes on the cone of that AS that the member is announcing at the IXP. Also, it's different. And we are working to get latency information and data plane measurements to incorporate on the platform, for example, to identify if it's a remote peering or not. Similarly, we have the list of IXPs in which that AS is not necessarily a member, but it's reachable through other ASs. And again, we can have the number of prefixes and the address space that is being announced regarding that AS of interest. In this particular case, for our latest snapshot, it was only IPv6 data IPv6 prefix being announced for that particular AS in other IXPs. And also the last column is about the number of members of that IXP that are announcing the prefix from our AS of interest. So that's the first case when we need to find better connectivity to a given AS. Or we can do the same by querying for a prefix and also finding where that prefix is being announced on the internet. Second use case. I'm a peering manager of an AS, and I need to decide if it's worth or not connecting to a new IXP because I'm expanding my footprint. And probably this is one of the most interesting features that we have on the platform, where a network operator can go there, upload its routing information base. So you go to your router, say, show IPBGP routes, put it in a text file, upload to the platform, select the IXP of interest that you want to compare your routing data against with. We have this disclaimer that we are going to delete the data after processing the data, but if you want to help our research, you can say, okay, you can keep the data and we could use it later for further analysis. What we are getting here, first, comparison of the coverage of the IXP data against the routing data that was provided to us. For example, we have the number of ASs that we are seeing at the IXP, the number of ASs that we are seeing in the routing information base that was provided, and the intersection of both. So you could see that everything that we have on the IXP, we will also have on the RIB that was provided to us. This is expected. We have the same for the prefixes, and we have the same for the address space. So you can get an idea of exactly what you are getting new if you connect to the IXP. But that may be not enough for making a decision, because we have the following. If we go to the top cards, we have all the prefixes that are being announced at the IXP, and that we also have coverage in the RIB that was provided. So we can identify, for example, that even though there are like 187,000 prefixes that are covered in both the RIB and the IXP, for the majority of them, we are getting a shorter path at the IXP. That's kind of expected, but even though it's not new prefixes, are shorter paths, so probably improved traffic delivery. We could also do the same considering the address space of the ASs, and we observe that for 868 ASs, we are getting more address space being announced at the IXP route server than on the RIB that we provided. So again, new address that we can reach. Also, another important aspect is that I may be getting routes to the same prefix that I already have, but it's important to have resilience, so different paths to reach the same prefix. So if there is a failure, I can have another route. Here we have a CDF showing the resilience or the redundancy of the paths. Higher numbers means more resilience, because the path will be more different considering the Jacquard distance that we use to compute. So in this case, we have like that 20% of the prefix that are appeared in both data sets that we use are at least 40% different. And the third use case, this is more associated with the IXP operation. This one was brought to us by the guys from IXBR that they were interested in knowing. In Brazil, we have the case that IXBR São Paulo, it's the largest one. Everyone wants to go to São Paulo and are not connecting to the regional IXPs. So they were interested in knowing who is somewhere but not at the regional IXP. The idea here is you pick an IXP that will be your regional one. In this case, I'm using São Paulo. And we geolocated ASs and prefixes in the region of the IXP. We geolocated the prefixes using IP info data, and to geolocate an AS to a given region, we consider that at least half of its address space should be geolocated in that region to assume that the AS belongs to that particular region. And what we can check, for example, is that for ASs, 951 of the ASs on that region are members of the regional IXP that we are analyzing. We have 1,400 that are reachable at the IXP, and there are 197 ASs that are not present at the IXP. So probably those are the ones that IXBR should look for to go and connect to that particular IXP to keep local traffic local. And we have also identified ASs that are from that region, not members of the regional IXP, but members from other IXPs. So they are already in other IXPs, but not at the regional ones. And there are, for this particular region, São Paulo, 3 ASs that are in that region and not present in any of the IXPs that we are analyzing here. We have the same for the reachability of the prefixes from the region that are available, reachable, not reachable, or reachable in other IXPs. We also analyzed if the ASs from that region are announcing the entire address space that they have in that region at the IXP, and the majority of the case, they are announcing everything from that region at the IXP whenever they are connected to the IXP. And more importantly, for the IXP operator, we can provide the lists of the ASs that are from that region but not connected to there, so they could actively try to bring those guys to the IXP. Another important thing, this is a research, we are trying to build a paper on this, but this is intended to be a tool for the community. So all of our data is made available through an API that you could use to integrate with your tools, and it's documented in our website. And we are continuously adding new features and also adding more coverage of IXPs as long as we are getting data from the IXPs. So for the next months, we are considering investigating the impacts of peering and depeering at IXPs. We have been observing several content providers leaving the route servers of IXPs. So we want to understand what would happen with the IXP if the content providers are not publicly announcing the routes at the IXP. Also, which is related to the previous talk, we are willing to investigate the resilience of IXPs. So how diverse are the routes at the IXPs and what would be the impact of authors in that IXP. So I definitely should talk with the previous presenter. And we are getting some VMs at some IXPs to do data plane measurements and understand the latence to reach the ASs and the prefixes that are connected and available at the IXP. And also to identify remote peering, because maybe the AS is in there, but it's not closed, so we are not going to improve traffic delivery, exchanging traffic with a remote member. Right now, we are making the platform available, so you can just scan the QR code, or if you don't trust the QR code, you just go to IXPert.info, and we need a domain name for this. And with that, I conclude my talk and more than happy to take your questions.
Thank you, Pedro. As you can see, there are a lot of overlap between the work that you are doing and the work that other presented today. So the whole idea of getting everyone in this room is actually to see this overlap and actually see how we can collaborate. So we have questions.
Very unbiased view, fantastic work. I'm very impressed. I was wondering, you're integrating data from a variety of sources. So I was wondering how heavy is to maintain the platform and how dependent you are on the potential changes of any of these underlying dependencies, how scalable it is, for example, to get the data plane measurements across a variety of IXPs.
Okay, so regarding keeping all the data, it wasn't that challenging until 2 weeks ago when PCH stopped working. So all the data that we were getting from PCH is not available at this moment. So for like the last few days, we don't have coverage of few IXPs because we are not getting data from PCH. Getting data from the IXP looking glasses, we were able to handle that right now because we learned a lot and talking with the people from the IXPs and say, okay, how can I query the data without shutting down the looking glass? So that was an important thing. And about the scalability of the project, like we need to bring the IXPs on board. And we are getting our first VMs at IXPR, our main partner in IXPs for this. And we hope that once we are getting some IXPs, the other ones will see the value of the platform and start joining this and collaborating with us.
Awesome job indeed. I wonder how much additional information did you find Packet Clearing House contributed, given that now they go offline?
Yeah, there are a few IXPs that we only have at Packet Clearing House. For example, we lost coverage of PT Chile, for example, in Latin America because it's only available at PCH, and there are other IXPs only available at Packet Clearing House.
Is the looking glass they have still online? Can you use that to...
Regarding looking glasses, everyone that's not using the Alice looking glass is quite challenging to web scrap everything. So all the ones that use the Alice looking glass, you can easily go there and get the data, but the other ones is challenging.
And the third question I had was about looking glasses. So there is also the IXP Manager, right? There's another looking glass whole sort of suite, IXP Manager.
Yeah.
But I found that for very large IXPs, you cannot dump the whole thing. I don't know if you have tried that.
No, on the IXP Manager, no.
But Alice allows...
Alice works well.
All right.
Yeah, there are some rate limits, but we can manage that.
Cool. Awesome. Really nice.
Thank you. Very cool work. So we are also using Alice Looking Glass to get data. We also found like it's quite slow. I wonder if you have any trick for that. But I think more generally, maybe we should coordinate on collecting this kind of data because I think we hit the API like quite hard. And I think if you collect that data, I collect that data, maybe we should just synchronize and share
definitely.
how we do that.
Yeah, the data is available. You just query our platform, but we can share the data using a different way. And regarding the trick, I can tell you offline because that was told to me by the guys from IXPR how to do that, but I think I cannot speak it loudly.
Okay, good. I'll take this offline then.
Just maybe you folks that you work in this space and maybe under the umbrella of ISOC, you can engage with IXP operators to provide BGP feeds as BGP dumps instead of having to go through.
We are trying that.
You're trying
as
the
well.
Moscow IX does that. MSK-IX. If you go in their website, they also have daily BGP dumps. I haven't found another IXP that does that.
We have spoken with Mikael from RIPE.
Yeah.
And the idea is that we incentivize the IXPs to peer with RIPE RIS, and we can get the feed directly from RIPE. That was our original plan.
Right.
Because IXPDB is also can give you like some more information, but then you have some troubles of some data are going to be protected. And I think if you do that as BGP data from all IXPs, then you will run into that problem that some will be okay to have that data public, some not. So I think going through this, it's a good way.
Yeah. Regarding the IXPDB, one thing is that, for example, data from Brazilian IXP is not updated. It's from months ago.
Yeah.
So the idea is whenever possible, we get data from the Alice looking glass because it tends to be like more accurate.
No, I think Marino was first. You need to be...
You cannot ask question, Marino. You were my former PhD supervisor.
Nice work.
Thank you.
So can you clarify the third use case? It gets as input two IXPs, right? It just wasn't clear from the demo.
No, this use case.
Yeah, the third one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's this one. It gets as input an IXP. For example, we want to understand which ASs that are geolocated in Rio Grande do Sul, our state back in Brazil, that are not connected to the regional IXP. So we geolocate the ASs based on IP info data, assuming that an AS belongs to that region. If at least
I saw the data was from the south, but yeah,
and if there is at least half of the address space announced that geolocated at that state, And we want to understand whether or not those ASs are present at the IXP. So it gets as input a regional IXP. And it will show you the ASs that are from that region, but not at the IXP. There is a similar analysis where you add a region, say, I want to know which IXP offers better connectivity in this particular region. And then it will show the list of IXP saying you can get more of the ASs here or the prefixes here.
Just because you could instead say, oh, there's this local IX and you want to see who isn't there. Exactly. Yeah. It's similar.
Yeah.
This applies to anybody. We have free infinite S3 storage kindly offered by Amazon at Uni, which means you can download all our data at ultra high speed. And I'm suggesting that maybe you do it nicely, but if somebody runs an Uni measurement for one of these private, rate limited, whatever data sets, and it happens to end up in our public data set, now it's archived forever in S3, and everybody can download it for free very quickly. And you can just write a very simple 2-line piece of code, even in Bash, and you can just download all the things. So I don't know. Food for thought.
Yeah, let's talk later.
Food for thought. I'm glad to see that there might be some collaboration opportunities for the data collection. And someone said maybe ISOC should be the one that doing the data collection for everybody.
Yeah.
So on Wednesday, we have the Internet Data Trust Talk. Maybe this is close to that, but let's see. Great. Thank you, Pedro.
Thank you.